What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Happy Fusion Day. Today is the fusion for the brand new champion Mavera, the Web Diviner. We do have the schedule here a little bit in advance, so we're able to make this video ahead of time. This is like a first time ever, to be honest. Now, there's a couple things I need to say before we get started here is that because we got the schedule a little bit ahead of time, there is always a subject to change for some of these events. So make sure you guys double check the dates on some of the events that you guys are going to see in this video. Like I said, this is a pre-made video many hours in advance. None of the events are live so far. And I will need to put this little written disclaimer here that says schedule is subject to change. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump into this Fusion schedule here. All right, so let's start off with day one. It's going to be Wednesday. You're going to start off with the Fire Night Tournament. Now, the Fire Night Tournament is going to be aligned with the Gear Hunters event, which is great. So that means all the points you put into the Fire Night Tournament will go towards the Gear Hunters. Keep in mind that the Fire Night Tournament will cost you approximately 20 to 100 energy. This is based on Fire Night Normal 20 performance. But the downside here is that the Gear Hunters event will probably cost you closer to about 5,000 to 5,500, depending on what level you're doing. In terms of efficiency, again, level 20 in normal will be the most efficient area for you in terms of points per energy. So that's going to be day one focus here. Also, a key thing to note is that based on this, the bottom left-hand corner, there's 450 total fragments up for grabs. There is 50 extra fragments up for grabs here as well. So that allows us some wiggle room in terms of missing events or messing up events and so forth. So we do have to spend 5,500 energy roughly to finish off this Gear Hunters event. You do have a training tournament that we can throw energy into as well. Unfortunately, there's no other dungeon tournament to align with this first Gear Hunters. So the big energy spend will be on this first Gear Hunters. An extra 3,000 energy, is going to have to go in to this Gear Hunters just to get the points requirements. So this is going to be a big energy sink here. And then we have this Ice Golem tournament, which does not align with a Gear Hunters event. And that's a big bummer, right? Because you're spending again another 2,200 energy into the Ice Golem, but that's not double dipping into something else. What you could do is connect these two, go training and Ice Golem, and then do some additional training while you're farming up Ice Golem. You can stretch your energy and points a little bit that way, but not ideal. So the first week definitely not ideal. We do have, Classic Arena Takedown. These are pretty freebies here. And then we do have the standard 3 artifact enhancement events. Again, pretty freebie. They do cost you about 15 to 20 million silver. You don't need all that silver up front, as you'll be making silver throughout the 2 weeks that the fusion is going on. Now, the big summon event for the first week will be the Summon Rush event here. And typically to get the requirements for the Summon Rush, it's going to be around, about 5 to 6 Sacred Shards worth of points roughly. It could potentially be less. But I would prepare, conservatively speaking, for about at least 5 Sacred Shards worth of points. Also, something to keep in mind is that we do have CBC happening around this time. Sorry, CBC is happening right here. So the Fire Night Tournament will be open during the last day of CBC. So you can jam some points in during the Fire Night and during the Fusion and during CBC, so you get a little bit extra value there. So that's going to be the first week. So the first week, I don't really like it. Like I said, the Gear Hunters event doesn't overlap with the Ice Golem, which kind of sucks. And there's nothing really going on here. So the Gear Hunters, the first Gear Hunter is going to swallow up a bunch of energy. Now, what is interesting is that there is only 2 Gear Hunters events currently listed. Usually there's 3. And what has happened in the past is usually there's some sort of hidden event. So it's possible that there's some kind of hidden event here during the non-CBC week, during Tuesday, Wednesday. It could be potentially like a Deck of Fate for something that involves gear hunting. It is right after the Summon Rush, so it could be Shard related, could be Soulstone related. Usually those two pair up relatively nicely. I would say it's relatively unlikely that it's going to be champion training since we do have champion training ending on Monday and then we have champion training starting on Thursday. So it's relatively unlikely that it's going to be champion training. So I would say it's probably going to be gear hunters related plus something else. So either shards or soul stones for some kind of event happening on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere around here. So if you guys are not interested in going for Mavera, maybe whatever this event here might entice you guys to participate a little bit. So hopping into the second week here, we have the Dragon Tournament. Again, not lining up with any kind of gear hunter event. So your energy is just kind of going into Dragon, which again kind of sucks. Unless, like I said, there's going to be some kind of gear hunter event here, then you can double dip with Dragon and Gear Hunter. After that, we do have champion training. It does have a little bit of double dipping capability with Dragon. So Dragon and training, you can make that work, or you can make that work, right? You can farm Dragon while farming for food. You can make that work. We have gear enhancement, the usual, and then the second gear hunter here at the tail end of the fusion. Now, this champion chase in the second week is going to be the interesting part because this is where the extra 50 fragments is. This is very, very peculiar. Let's assume the first 25 costs you, somewhere around 15, 1750 in terms of points. If you're going for the full 75, how much would this cost in theory? About 6,000, 5,500 champion chase points. We just had 2x voids. It's probably going to be 2x ancients. That would be my guess. But we don't know. If it's 2x ancients, that's great. Because 2x Ancients is perfect for Champion Chase, gives you a good amount of points per each Ancient Shard. You guys definitely should be saving up for that. And yeah, to wrap it all up, we have Spider going along with the Gear Hunters, and then you get a chance to triple dip with Champion Training as well. If you have a solo capable Spider here, again, 2200 energy. And then this one would be 2200 energy. And then the Gear Hunter, about 5500 energy. The best case scenario is when you have two of these tournaments lining up with one Gear Hunter event because you can put the 2200 energy, both of them into the Gear Hunters, so you don't have to waste energy that way. But this is very curious. This champion chase with 75 total fragments is very curious. In my opinion, if you go for the extra 50 fragments, you probably want to skip one of these Gear Hunters events just to save yourself a little bit of energy if that's what you want to do. If you have lots of energy, then maybe you want to skip something else. Maybe you want to skip the 50 fragments altogether and then just save your shards, for example. Keep in mind the 50 is extra. The 50 is extra. And I like that the 50 is extra near the end of the fusion. So it gives you an idea, it gives you kind of like a safety net. Just in case something goes wrong, you can at least try to make up 50 more fragments in the champion chase. Now it's going to cost you some shards. But yeah, you got to make sure you save up, whatever you got, fragment fusions, broad maw fusions, whatever. Also keep in mind that we do have 4 epics available to be fused into the champion chase. Now, obviously you need the fragments from the champion chase to fuse the 4th one. So make sure that you guys save the fragments for the epics and then fuse them during the champion chase. So that's going to be an easy 750 points from 3 epic fragment fusions, right? And then during the final training and champion training event right here, train up all those epics. And then if you can get it all done in time, you can even fuse Mavivera during the champion chase to get some additional value from her as well. This is going to be a time limited fusion, so you can't save Mavivera for the future and pull her later. There's going to be a timer when the fusion for Mavivera will end. So make sure you guys fuse her before that timer expires. Something else that I noticed is that this first champion training event has 50 points in it. So this is the tournament style champion training. So this is the one where books and ascensions will give you points. It's going to have 50 fragments in there. So it's going to be higher thresholds than, for example, this champion training event that's happening in the second half of the fusion. So make sure you guys, obviously conserve some of your resources so you guys can take care of these champion training tournaments. But like I said, the champion chase gives you guys some flexibility because it offers the ability to skip 2 events if you can max out the champion chase for all the fragments. So if you guys don't have a lot of food or you guys struggle to get food points for training, then, and you guys have shards, then, you guys can pick it up in the champion chase in the back half. And most likely it will be 2x ancients. if you guys want a rough estimate on what ancients are worth during 2x ancients and a champion chase, each one expected value is about 53 points. So, for example, if you need 2,500 points, you're looking at about 50 ancient shards. Mystery shards are going to have high value as well for this champion chase. Make sure you guys stockpile some of those up. I recommend doing 12-3 brutal while you're doing campaign farming so you guys can get some additional mystery shards that way. Now, overall, there's a couple interesting things about this entire fusion schedule. First of all, this champion chase being stacked up with 75 fragments is very interesting. Like I said, you guys can take 3 of these fusions, put it into the champion chase for an easy 750 points. That's definitely what I would do. It's going to lessen the shard requirements, the pull requirements for the champion chase, which is great. It's probably going to be 2x ancients, which is great for point efficiency. The other thing that's kind of interesting here is the lack of third gear hunter. So like I said, the lack of third gear hunter usually means that there's some kind of hidden event. It could be a deck of fate, could be a hero's path for something. And yeah, that leads to a ton of question marks and speculation about what this could be. Could it be for a guaranteed champion? What guaranteed champion could it be? Could it be a guaranteed soul for a champion, for example? Could it be, I mean, we just had a collab end, so the relic material's gone. So there's not going to be a deck of fate for like relic materials again. So what could it be? And is it time for perhaps 2x boosted immortal soulstones? We haven't had that in a while, I think. Now, these events are very, very expensive. So if you don't have a bunch of stuff saved up, it's going to be very difficult to complete them. So it's best just to ignore them, especially if you're just focused on the fusion. Now, Mavivera here is a very, very solid fusion. I highly recommend going for her, especially if you're just progressing through the game. She has a great kit for Hydra. And unless you have 3 fully functioning, great Hydra teams already on the go, Mavivera is going to help you out for sure. She's a reviver. She's going to help those auto teams. She brings Veil, which is very good, again, for auto teams. She can push damage on your team as well. And just a very good general support. And if you're newer to the game, she can help you through wave content. She can even be helpful in arena as well. She has a very good passive for the arena as well. And then she does bring the speed in arena battles. So that's going to be very, very strong there. Not a huge fan of this fusion schedule layout, for some of the points that are already listed. For example, like the Fire Knight going into Gear Hunters, and then Ice Golem going into nothing. So you can't really double dip into another Gear Hunters. And then similarly, this is happening on the second week as well, where Dragon is not double dipping into a Gear Hunter. And you have to basically complete the Spider Tournament into the Gear Hunter basically fully. So to me, there's just going to be a lot of extra energy being spent to complete some of these Gear Hunters. So if you have some extra shards and you want to target the 75 fragments in the champion chase, you're probably going to save a lot of energy by omitting one of the Gear Hunter events. And if you're actually lacking some of the bigger shards, like for example, sacred shards, you could even fully omit the summon rush as well, and then just solely focus on the champion chase. That could be a viable strategy as well. So if you are very lacking on sacred shards currently, and the summon rush is like, a little bit unreasonable in terms of cost, you can just forego the summon rush and just focus on the champion chase. I think that's a very viable strategy, especially if you have more ancient shards, more mystery shards. That might be something that you want to consider and just target the champion chase event instead. And then if you get the full 75, and then perhaps you can skip like the Gear Hunter event at the very end and still complete this fusion. So the last champion chase actually gives you quite a lot of flexibility, which is really good. So that might be the play. If you're low on shards, it might be worthwhile to skip the summon rush, and just focus solely on the champion chase. That would be my recommendation for you guys. And if you have the choice of omitting a second event, if you're low on energy, then just omit one of the Gear Hunters. You're going to save a couple thousand energy that way. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Like I said, it's going to be subject to change. This is a pre-recorded video, so it's done about 12 hours before it's released. So you never know if something happened or changed in that time span. Like I said, this is the first time that Plarium's actually giving us the Fusion calendar early. Hasn't happened in years. Usually they always give the Fusion calendar after the Fusion starts. So hopefully everything here is still valid. Definitely double check all the dates and the events when it is officially released. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this schedule. Are you guys planning to go for Mavera? Thanks so much for watching until the end. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.